Hello again. So this is part 2 of this weekend's video. If you haven't seen part 1, we were talking about our latest release, Agnes Husband, so please have a look at that. Now last weekend I spoke about a dilemma that I was having with a new sampler that I had started. And my dilemma was that I was stitching this on uneven count linen, and this linen is 52/62, and it is the most gorgeous of linens to stitch on, and I thoroughly enjoyed working with it, and I'm looking forward to working on this linen again. But I'm not proceeding with this linen for this project. And if you remember, I talked about the difference in the width of the top undulation to the side undulation. These undulations are exactly the same number of stitches, but on the lower count, these measure 19 millimeters, and on the higher count they measure 14 millimeters, and I feel that the distortion to the layout of this border is not representing the original sampler. Now, when I talked about this last week, somebody did email me and suggested to me, why didn't I rotate my fabric around? Well, if I rotated my fabric around, I would still have the same problem, that there is too great a discrepancy between the size of the horizontal and the vertical. So I have restarted the sampler on a more even count of linen, and I am using 56 count linen, and this linen actually comes out at 56/58. So if I hold, this is not going to be that easy actually, I need another pair of hands. So if I hold, that's just not working very well at all. Hold on a second. If I hold this up to the other, you can see how much nicer the one I'm proceeding with looks, because the border is working out practically the same all around. There is just a fraction of a millimetre difference between the two, barely a millimetre. And what I've done, I've stopped here because I wanted to show you the undulation before I fill in the flower, so you can see that looks a lot more regular than that looks. It's difficult to show you without an extra pair of hands. This is a really pretty sampler, and I've been starting to fill in the little flowers that sit in between, and it's a rainbow of colours. So I think probably another evening, maybe 2 evenings, and I will get this border finished. Then I will start to work on filling in the centre, and there are some really beautiful motifs in this sampler, and I will show you a few more peaks of this as it starts to fill up and grow. Now, I'm not going to waste this piece of linen, and I have got to frog this, and most of us will probably use a seam ripper to frog with. And frogging on 52/62, it's not easy. It's almost akin to frogging over 1. It's it's not easy to get your seam ripper underneath, and you have to take your time. Now, because of the problem I have with my neck that affects my hands, I find holding such a small seam ripper quite difficult in my hands, and I want to have a really good connection with this seam ripper when I am unpicking this, because a mistake means that I will cut a thread of my linen. And what I like to use is, rather than the traditional seam ripper, I like to use this, which a friend very kindly gifted to me. It's very weighty, and it's very much like a pen, and it has two ends that come out. One is an owl, which is very, very useful, and the other is a seam ripper, and you just turn it around when you want to use it, and it fits in the hand so nicely. You will see that this is contoured, and it just perfectly fits in the hand, and I find that I have so much greater control over this than this is hard to grip and to hold firmly. With this I have much greater control, and this is what I will be using to rip out the stitches on this piece of linen. I'm not going to waste this linen. Linen is far too precious. These can be purchased from a gentleman who I believe is in Australia through Facebook, and what I will do when I publish this video is show the name of the Facebook group below the bottom of the screen so that you can check out his Facebook group. It's a very useful little object to have. An owl is great for opening up your Algerian eyelets when you're laying them, and for many other things as well. And that is a very nice seam ripper. So I was very thrilled when my friend gifted that to me. Now, linen. I have had a lovely bag of linen come this week, and this linen has come from Hungary, from Dukas of XJU Design. That is the letter X followed by JUDESIGN, and Dukas has a store on Etsy. And if the colour is not available in the count you want, if you email Dukas, she is exceptionally good about responding to emails and, you know, dyeing fabric in the count that you want. So let me go through what I've got. So a friend of mine said to me that she loved old sheep. So I ordered a full yard of old sheep in 46 count, and I also ordered a full yard of old sheep in 56 count, and you can see there is a slight difference between the two. Dye always takes differently between the two counts. There is a slightly vintage look to this colour, and I love it. It's really very, very nice, and you will be seeing quite a few things from Hands Across the Sea samplers coming out on this colour. Very, very nice. And I'm just going to put my tags back on. So this was old sheep in 46 and 56 count. Now, when you're ordering 46 count that's on a Zweigart base, you must remember that there are two different versions. There is the Bergen, which is an uneven linen, and you also have the Bristol, which is an even linen. And if you let Ducas know which of the two you want, she will dye that for you. Now, at the moment, Ducas is on holiday, and I think she's probably back in about 10 days' time. So if you email her, you might at this time have to wait a little while for a reply because she's on holiday. Now, I asked Ducas if I could have some samples of some other colours that she felt was suitable for reproduction samplers. And I must admit, I love this one. This one is rustic driftwood. There we are, rustic driftwood, and this is 46 count Bergen, and I have now ordered a full yard of this in 56 and the Bergen and the Bristol 46 counts as well. That's a great colour for reproduction samplers. Another colour which is lovely, and the example is on 56 count, is coffee, and I've ordered a full yard of that as well. And then you have, get this in the right order, you have light coffee, and that's been dyed on 56 as well. So you have coffee and you have light coffee. And then the one that I just went potty over was the rustic driftwood. This is light driftwood, and this has been dyed again on 56 count. And then the other colour that she sent me was light nougat on 56 count, and you can see that is just a slightly different shade to the light driftwood. So those are some fabulous new colours, and you know, you can't have too much in your stash. You really can't. So there are the colours. We've got the old sheep in 46 count, we've got the old sheep in 56 count, then we have the driftwood, the coffee, the light coffee, the light driftwood, and then we have the light nougat. So a lovely selection of linen. And I have been quite sort of worried about supplies lately because with COVID, we're seeing flare-ups here, there and everywhere, and I do not want to get caught short with my linen or my silks, and I'm going to, I've always been sensible about my stash levels before, but I'm of the view now that I want to have yards and yards and yards of fabric, and I was very grateful that I did have linen when lockdown had happened. I'd just come back from America, so I came back with really good supplies of linen, but you know, that just went, so you know, I'm determined to stock right back up. If you remember, a little while ago I showed a delivery that I had received from Access Commodities of hundreds of spools of Soie 103. Well, I can tell you, I do not have much left. Those spools went out to model stitchers, and you know, I now have big gaps in my stash for 103, and I'm very anxiously waiting for new supplies to come through. This is one of my favourite greens, and that is literally all I've got left on the spool. It's not enough to start another sampler with. I don't want to get that we're in lockdown and I've got no stitching supplies. That would be absolutely awful, not to be able to work on projects. Now, talking about working on projects, you all probably are aware of Anne Morrison, which is the sampler that was released the week before by Traditional Stitches. This is an exclusive sampler to Traditional Stitches, and there's going to be a stitch along starting at the beginning of October. and this little Scottish sampler is delightful. Now Rose, who is leading the Stitch Along on Facebook, and the group is called Anne Morrison Stitch Along, very easy to find, but you need to remember that Morrison only has one arm. Now Rose, who's leading the Stitch Along, has this week posted a photograph of the sampler divided up into monthly sections, and I'm going to insert that photograph into this video now. As you can see, each section is easily achievable, and I have decided that I am going to join the Stitch Along and stitch Anne along with everybody else. I have to send this model off to Canada now, and the model isn't mine, it was stitched by Angela, so after it's been on display for the year, this model will be going to live with Angela, and I'm going to miss not having this model in my home, so what I need to do is stitch one for myself. So I'm going to join in that Stitch Along and you know, share the experience of stitching her with you. And I really, really hope that you will join us to stitch Anne. Now, I think she was released not Thursday gone, but the Thursday before, and by the Saturday morning, the print run had been sold out, but a new print run has been put in hands, so there will be even more charts going over to Canada now. But if you live in mainland Europe or Great Britain, I will be shipping the booklets to you, so you do not have to pay shipping rates from Canada, but all orders for Anne have to go through Traditional Stitches because this is exclusive to them. They commissioned me to reproduce this sampler. I can't wait actually to stitch her. She is cross stitch over 2 threads and Algerian eyelet. That little heart in Algerian eyelet is so pretty. I love the soft colours that are in Anne, and the Jersey Cream show those colours off so beautifully. And Jersey Cream is a really lovely linen to stitch on. I love the way that she's done these 2-tone initials, and you know that row that's 2-tone, it's very sort of Scottish, you know, representing tartan. Anyway, I'm looking forward to doing this, and it's not often I get to stitch just for me, because you know, I'm always stitching models, so that's going to be great fun, and I'm going to share the experience with you hopefully. Now, we haven't mentioned it, but we want this stitch along to be great fun, and what we have mentioned, that everybody who completes this sampler within the year has the opportunity to win a beautiful Scottish sampler. But what we haven't announced is that everybody who purchases the booklet for Anne Morrison is going to receive special treats, and at the moment my lips are sealed, but I do hope that by next weekend that we can share what that special treat is. It's a gift from Janice and Hands Across the Sea Samplers to say thank you to everybody who purchases the booklets. So you know, keep an eye open for the announcement, maybe next weekend. We shall see. We're just putting some final touches to your gift. Okay, so have I covered everything? Oh no, I've got one more thing I wanted to mention. Do you remember that I showed you a little scrap of embroidery of a rabbit? Well, I said that I was going to have the bunny framed, and here he is. He's going to be a male rabbit because we all think of Beatrix Potter and Peter rabbits. Isn't that beautiful? Now, my framer, because this isn't a model that's going to be shipped off, I could have this sampler or this embroidery glazed, and the glass in this frame is fabulous. You know, you would go to touch that and not realise there was glass there. And the glass that has been used by my framer is, I got him to write this down, it's water white AR. That's the type of glass that's been used, and basically it's anti-reflective with reflective control. And when anti-reflective glass became available, it distorted, it blurred the stitching, and I think that's what put me off using it on my stitching, that you couldn't look at it and see the detailing in the stitching. But that's no longer the case with anti-reflective glass. Basically, you know, if you look at a pane of glass, you see like a green tinge to it. That's the iron in the glass. This water white anti-reflective glass has no ferrous in it, and that's what makes it so crystal clear to see. I am really lucky with my framer, and I use, his name is Pete, and it's Sully's Framing, and Sully is S for Stephen, U for Uncle, L for Lima, Y for Yankee. Sully's Framing in Penryn, and his telephone number is 01 326 377 009, and Pete will do framing via sort of mail order, or you can email him. His email address is Sully's, SULLYS, picture framing, all as one word, Sully's picture framing at gmail.com. And you can send him your needlework or anything else that you want framed, and he will frame it and ship it back to you. And I think that having used Pete for several years now, that he has got to understand what needleworkers are looking for, and particularly needleworkers who stitch reproduction samplers. He understands how reproduction samplers should be framed to keep them in keeping with the period that the samplers were originally stitched in. Now, he does not lace needlework. They just haven't got the time because it is time consuming. But you can send him your needlework already laced to frame, or you can give him the measurements of your laced needlework, and he will just send you a ready-made frame, or a frame made to your requirements, so you can just pop your needlework in. Or you can let him mount your work, and if you phone him, he will discuss how he will mount your work, but he does not lace and frame. He will even send you the mount board for you to lace your work onto as well. And he really does have a lovely, lovely selection of frames. You can go onto my website. Every single sampler that is on my website, with the exception of Susanna Milne and How Now Brown Cow and When Thou Art Rich, because those three were framed in Australia. Every other one he has framed. And if you live in the US, his brother is a framer in the US as well, and he is based in New York. So you can even use Sully's in the US as well. Gosh, we have covered a lot of ground today, but that is it. So I am going to say, I hope that you will join the stitch along for Anne Morrison and Rose, who's leading the stitch along. Janice of Traditional Stitches is going to be stitching Anne as well, and I am going to be stitching Anne with you. And don't forget, from the first video of today, you have the beautiful Agnes husband to download and stitch and enjoy as well. Do you know what? Before I go, I was just going to say, Agnes would look fabulous on one of those beautiful old spools. She really, really would. Okay, that is it now. So until next weekend, stay safe, stay well, and bye-bye.